freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. As always, we love it when you're part of the conversation. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on YouTube, so you can catch the live stream and even post a comment on there. It's Smooth981. That's the channel on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. Our analysts are in this morning. It's Mr. C and AB Bozimo. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Omatseye.
Good morning. Great to be here. Nice to see you guys.
Same here. All right, let's start off with the nation. Tinubu, a new minimum wage will be fair, implementable. Now, the president has dropped hints of the scope of the planned minimum wage for Nigerian workers. And of course, this is following the rise in the cost of living. Now, he says that the new coming wage structure will be practical, sustainable, and implementable by all layers of government. AB?
What I'll just say is that this is one of those stories that has numbers, percentages, but the key sentence here for me is following the rise in the cost of living. Cost of living has truly gone beyond what anybody could have hoped, thought, or expected. And inflation recently hit 28+%. So he's talking about the minimum wage. There is a category of Nigerians who do work and who will therefore qualify for those increases, and kudos to them. However, I would say the vast majority of Nigerians don't fall into those categories. They don't work in this formal sector where you can collectively bargain for more money. And they too are subject to the cost of living increases. I also am concerned that we're talking about it will. This is the sixth month. What could be more of a priority than these matters, even if you're limiting it to just the people who are in the formal employment sector? Why are we talking about when it will come, when, in my view, the dividends should already have started showing? We heard a few days ago, that some labor components were complaining that they were only paid once a certain grant in September and haven't been paid again. Meanwhile, of course, all sorts of monies were voted for the recent trips to COP and anywhere else that they all have to go. So for me, it seems to be a matter of not necessarily country. I want to start hearing news about we have implemented, not we will, because after a transition period of about 3 months, meaning altogether 9 months, it's almost a year by which a prepared leader should have had one or two of the components of their planning already being executed. So when we hear this, we will. But I know we're coming to the end of the year. It's good and easy to make promises, but by when? January, first quarter, same time in next year, May 29th, or when exactly? And how do ordinary Nigerians survive in the interim? These are the core questions. We can talk about the promise we have got more investment, $616 million. Is that really something to boast about in a country with a GDP of this size? So I am worried that the targets are being set in a very mediocre manner, and the real change that would benefit the Nigerians is not necessarily at hand. However, we wait and see when this we will soon will actually emerge.
While we wait for that to emerge, we'll talk about power, and we want to find out if this would be the final push that would chase darkness away from parts of the country, and there would truly be light. And that's why we'll pick up a copy of the Vanguard newspaper, and the headline comes: World Bank approves $750 million electricity facility for Nigeria. Mr. C, is this the silver bullet in terms of funding that would be what we've been waiting for?
Okay, thank you, Omatseye. Sadly, it's not. Now, the World Bank has approved a $750 million electricity facility for Nigeria, and it's coming through its International Development Association and agency. And this is an agency set up for the poorest nations in the world, and it gives loans ranging from 25 to 40 years. It has grace periods ranging between 5 to 10 years, and interest rates are between 1.5 to 2.8%. Now, the question many listeners would want to know is, what is this $750 million electricity facility for? Now, it's in support of the Nigeria Distributed Access through Renewable Energy Scale-up, or DARES. Now, what this project aims to do is to provide 17.5 million Nigerians with new or improved access to electricity through distributed renewable energy solutions. Now, why is this important? As of 2021, at least 85 million Nigerians were without any access to electricity. It will be a stretch of the imagination to check what the current figure is. Now, Nigeria already has in place a Nigeria electricity project, and that project has delivered 125 mini grids that are off the national grid, and at least 5.5 million Nigerians have now gotten access to electricity through renewable energy solutions. Now, this facility is very good, and it's coming on the back of the recent climate summit in Dubai, where Nigeria, amongst other nations, recommitted to ensuring that it reduces its carbon footprint over the next decade or two. Now, we are all aware of the challenges Nigeria's electricity industry is currently facing. We are aware of the recently concluded electricity retreats and how there are plans to unbundle TCM. Now, it's becoming increasingly clear, even to those who were undecided before now, that we have to start to incorporate renewable energy solutions if we're going to tackle the electricity problem here. And this, I dare say, is one way to go. Now, beyond all of this, we need to come up with a roadmap that clearly identifies how we're going to provide electricity to the near hundreds of millions of Nigerians that do not have access to any form of electricity. Now, will this provide any headwind or any gains for the administration? Yes, it will, because in the communities where these renewable energy solutions will be deployed, there will be electricity for small and micro small businesses to thrive. Families, schools will have access to electricity. And with access to electricity, you can then have further internet penetration. So this is one way to ensure that the goals of the dividends of this administration are quickly and swiftly delivered to millions of Nigerians. And I do pray there will be no hiccups in the way, and that we can go from strength to strength in this regard.
All right, thank you, Mr. C, for that. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. You can let us know what your thoughts are. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth981 on YouTube. All right, next headline comes from Punch. And yes, AB, it is another promise. The Comptroller General of the Nigeria Customs Services has committed to adopting more advanced data analytics and digital tech to streamline the operations and decision-making.
In fairness, when you want to roll out certain sizes and scopes of projects, in fairness, there is a procurement period where you first of all determine what is needed, you understand and identify the vendors, you place your orders, there's perhaps a delivery or build time, and then you can roll them out. So I'm not saying that everything can't have a lead-up period. And in this story, customs are saying, okay, they're going to adopt more advanced data analytics and digital tech to streamline operations and decision-making. There has to be a decision about what technology to adopt, how to deploy it, how to get people trained, and then you can start seeing the results. Why I spoke about that promise is that when I looked at it from the end of the election to May 29th, and then till now, it's about 9 months. When you talk about people they have needs that must be addressed in a much more urgent manner. Everything in the project So here the customs is saying, look, we want to adopt technology, analyze data more, be more predictive, even perhaps incorporate artificial intelligence to make sure that goals and purposes of the customs are better met. That's a good objective. The question trade and tariffs is a continuously evolving arena. And they just want to try and position the customs to be best delivering for Nigeria on its mission. So kudos to the customs management under the president to be attempting to do that. The customs is vaguely related. I don't know whether it has any connection with the Interior Ministry, but I would say that the Interior Minister has seemed to be doing quite a few things very quietly. He seems to have at least helped with the passports. He helped free some prisoners who were just awaiting trial, like 4,000 of them. He got money to free them. So there could be pieces and aspects in some of the ministries that are trying to do the right thing. Perhaps we'll see when customs roll this out, we'll now get more revenue from customs and maybe less, most importantly, less bottlenecks. If technology can reduce bottlenecks, then this would be a major kudos in terms of interacting with the custom. It should be something where you can sit down somewhere, get into a website, do your necessary inputs, and perhaps go to this the port of your choice and get your goods with minimal problems. So technology can help, and I hope that we deploy it right in Nigeria.
Mr. C, in the next 2 minutes, let's see if we can clear this off from the Nation newspaper stand where NAFDAC, that's the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, it's moving against sales of measured milk, cereals, and others in open markets. And the question, as you help us understand the story, is who would protect Nigerians, the unassuming consumers, from the seeming greed of business people?
Okay. Thank you very much, Umas. So NAFDAC has announced that it will arrest importers and sellers of unbranded cereals and other food items of industrial sizes in the open markets. Now, immediately I saw the story, two things jumped out. Is it actually an offense to do this? Because if it's not an offense, on what basis are you purporting to arrest them? Two, the fact that this is going on speaks to a larger issue, the economic situation in the country, that some Nigerians, at the very least, and I would say a lot of Nigerians at the most, simply cannot afford to buy the branded cereals and other bulk food items. And this is why it resulted to this. Now, NAFDAC is concerned about the seeming unhygienic practice in which this is done, where it is measured in cups and other forms of measures, and they want to come hard against it. And they further say that they're not sure whether it's from the manufacturing plant or the suppliers. Now, if you're not sure, what was the pace or the speed in running to the public to speak about it? Two, I would have thought that they would have carried out more investigations. Now, we can't run away from this, right? The economic situation is really terrible, and manufacturers are reducing the sizes of their products to the barest minimum. If that is the case, and you see that there's a lot of demand going that way, what NAFDAC needs to do is to tweak its regulations so that it covers this area. But to simply suggest you're going to stop it altogether, I'm not sure they have the manpower, the will, or the resources to do this. So it's for them to sit down with the manufacturers. Okay, so if this is where we're headed, or this is where we are right now, these are the regulations governing this practice now. That way, everybody's on board. We're all on the same page. And then we can move forward, because the truth of the matter is we're truly wonderful times. So NAFDAC, maybe they need to revisit this. On paper, it sounds good, but when you look at the demand patterns of Nigerians, they want things in smaller quantities they can determine. And if that is the way they want to go, then NAFDAC will have to adapt with the times.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. C. Deepo says selling of unbranded milk and cereal should not be illegal as far as gari, amala flour, salt, and sugar are sold in the marketplace and unbranded. Okay, you're listening to Freshly Pressed and Smooth 98.1. Conversation continues. Stay with us.
Whether it's growing your money, safe, well-managed investments for important goals like school fees, personal development, vacations, rent, buying a property, or preparing for the future, ARM has got you covered. We all know there are a lot of apps out there promising to grow your money, but ARM has everything you need to go from where you are to where you need to be. Start your wealth creation journey today by downloading the ARM One app, Google Play Store or iOS Store. There are great options for everyone. You even start with as low as 1,000 Naira, just 1,000 Naira. For more information, visit arm.com.ng or call 01-271-5002. That's 01-271-5002. ARM, let's face tomorrow together. You know who I am, 'cause I'll be a superstar. Hi, people. My name is Praise, and if you like good music, stay tuned to Smooth 98.1.
Okay, MS.
It's still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. AB Bozimo still with us, and Mr. C as we pick up a paper now. That's the Punch newspaper, and AB, this one comes to you. It goes the headline, Tinubu will sign anti-sexual harassment bill, and aide of the president is giving assurance to students. So we've seen many of these, again, could this be the final one that is the nail that would say this is all over? Students can go to school and be safe in the presence of their lecturers.
Well, we can hope. We can only hope because this is a promise, and they say the bill is on the table awaiting signature. And the students came and made a statement that it's in support of days of activism based on gender-based violence, against gender-based violence. So sexual harassment in and of itself is abhorrent, and anyone who is involved with it and can be found liable, especially in the situation of a lecturer to a student where there is also a power dynamic. That person is abhorrent, infra-dig, and really should be punished, because within the context and the ethics of education, no matter what the adulthood is, you cannot, it's virtually impossible to distinguish whether the person likes you or not. You have to have anything you will have separate from the institution. And that prohibits you, frankly, as lecturer from doing anything with your student while both of you are in that relative proximity and context. So this is all, it's a promise. It remains to be seen if and when it will be signed. When it is signed, I presume it's going to be signed. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. But it's important for us to take a step back and talk about gender-based violence. Gender-based violence as a whole is bad for society. It's very easy to fall into the default belief that it's always meant to women, but gender-based violence goes both ways. And violence is not always or only physical. Abuse has many dimensions. Verbal abuse is another form of gender-based violence. And I'm just hoping, first, that all these forms will be part of this bill, number one, as legally prescribed, presumed innocent until proven guilty. Too many people's lives have been ruined by the almost presumption that the woman is always right. That is not the case. If there's an accusation, it should be properly and fairly investigated without stigmatizing the accuser. But it is only when it has been proven that you should punish. But don't forget too, a person's reputation can be entirely ruined by a false accusation, and it's very difficult to get that reputation back. All I'm saying is that all these policies should be applied wisely, legally, and with caution so that lives are not destroyed, either by those trying to perpetrate the harassment or others trying to accuse people falsely. But it's a good bill. I expect it to be signed whenever the president maybe has one of those. They even give him pens in case he's run out of pens in Aso Rock. They brought a pen with which the president can sign. I'm happy that now at least that excuse of not having a pen has been removed from the president and it should be signed quickly.
All right, thank you, AB, for that. Let's move on to premium times. The EFCC boss, Ola Lukoide, has called for legislation against unexplained wealth as a way of checking criminal activities of treasury looters in the country. Now, through his spokesperson, he's noted and stated that countries like the UK, Australia, Zimbabwe, Trinidad have embraced the unexplained wealth orders since it came into force in 2018.
Thank you, Zibby. So the EFCC chairman was speaking at a two-day international conference organized by Christopher University, Moe, United States. And the theme of the conference was Unexplained Wealth in the Global South, examining the asset recovery and return trajectory. Now, the EFCC boss was complaining or pointing out that the EFCC has been forced to rely on Section 7 of the EFCC Act, which gives the Commission the power to investigate any individual whose source of livelihood cannot be easily obeyed or legitimately ascertained. Now, he's asked for fresh legislation to be enacted, which he calls the Unexplained Wealth Order. Now, what this order simply means in layman terms is the court granted order mandating an individual to explain his source of wealth or his interest in a particular property or set of properties, given the fact that his known legitimate and identifiable income cannot acquire that asset. So it then becomes incumbent upon the individual to establish that. However, in the same speech, the FCC chairman also stated that he had secured partial and full asset forfeitures in respect of individuals who could not readily ascertain their legitimate and lawful incomes. Now, the FCC chairman is a lawyer, and I'm pretty sure he's aware of the provisions of the Money Laundering and Prohibition Act of 2022, specifically Section 18, subsection 2, which says anyone who conceals the origin of any fund which he believes, which he knows was gotten from unlawful activities, which is money laundering. So he can use the Money Laundering Act as it presently is constituted, or further seek an amendment to ensure that he can bring in this unexplained wealth or their provision into the law. But the bigger question, the majority of the listeners and by extension Nigerians are asking is, we all know the number one culprit in this category of people who cannot ascertain their true wealth are the politicians. So it's not simply asking for the law. Do you have the will? Do you have the independence? Do you have the desire to go after the politicians who 90% of them cannot explain the wealth they display in public? Until you are able to match your desire for legislation with a true desire to interrogate the political class, this will come up as grandstanding and things regarding, because with this act, what they intend to do or what they continue to do is to go after the Yahoo boys. Yes, economic fraud is bad, it's against the law, and nobody's in support of it. But in addition to that, the EFCC was not set up to go after Yahoo boys. Interrogate the political class, because in Nigeria today, everyone believes the solution to poverty is to get into politics, and that narrative has to stop.
Thank you for that, Mr. C. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. I've got a message coming from Idima Puza from Surulere. He says, why we've been treated this way. There's high cost of foodstuff. We're hungry and angry, yet there's scarcity of money in banks to purchase items. And Ajayi says, the EFCC doesn't need any new legislation to carry out its functions. It just needs the will to do so. All right, thank you, Ajayi, for your message. And Gilbert says, I'm Gilbert Musa from FESTAC. The bill on gender violence, sexual harassment against ladies is brilliant, but it is equally important to establish an ideal dress code for both men and women in tertiary institutions, particularly for ladies, because the way, when you say who, Gilbert, when you say the way you dress is the way you will be addressed. Okay. All right.
Picking it up from there, just say Mr. C, he was part of, he cannot explain. Let's probably, would it be right to also side by side add up /she, because women too can also have words unexplained, but is that covered also in the submission?
Yes.
All right, that takes us away to AB this morning because you have appealed for gender balance. Let's hear what you have to say.
Not just that. When you talk about unexplained wealth, sometimes it's cash, sometimes it's, in my view, a difference between the value you have brought to society and the perceived reward. I would support the idea that the biggest purveyors of unexplainable wealth is the Nigerian political class, because they appear to be well. And in my thing to the society from which they suck the life, air, wealth, and breath out of. So that truly should be where the EFCC is going. Find out where their wealth came from, why they have it. And you see, they have legislated all sorts of allowances for themselves. So they may be able to say, yeah, I was paid 30 million last month. Why are you being paid 30 million if the rest of society is dying at under 25,000 in a month? But let's go on to the next story.
And that would be to a Ebonyi state where some persons also need explanation for unexplained wealth, why it's not trickling to them, and why they would get seasonal generosity or philanthropy. But then the Guardian states here, Governor Winfrey reiterates priority for welfare of elderly people and widows in Ebonyi state.
You know, as a politician, really, one of your greatest goals should be to try and make the lives of the people under your authority better. So it's a good thing to hear that a governor is reiterating the priorities. That should almost go without saying, but it's good to hear from him. So it's a commitment. He's talking about elderly people. All of us, as the good Lord permits, will get old. That's something to look forward to. And then widows. I would hope for gender equity that widowers would also be considered in this thing. Everybody who is in need deserves to be considered. And you know, he also quotes the good book, when we honor our parents, God will honor us. The point is, as a governor, you should have a ministry of social welfare that should take care of it. But again, it is good to hear the governor at the executive level committing to this. So hopefully he'll be inquiring from whoever he's put in charge, how far have you gone with this? And so the people in that state can look forward to at least being considered in this regard. But it should go without saying, the whole purpose and point of being in an office and authority is to make the lives of those under your domain better. These are some of the stakeholders, but it should not only be them. Everybody under the domain should feel the positive effects of your administration.
Well, takes us to messages now where Yinka Bolu on that unexplained wealth move by the EFCC boss. I'm in total support. However, this needs to cut across board from politicians to ordinary man on the streets, and especially those ones in clubs. For the life of me, who spends 40 million naira in a club with a tax clearance certificate or TRN, TIN? Then Charles Chidozie comes, I bet women are the only gender who can absolutely explain their source of wealth, i.e., hookup, sugar daddy, etc. Zibby?
Charles Chidozie, we're having a constructive conversation here. Come on. All right, that is it for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your messages. And special thanks to our analysts, Mr. C and AB Bozimo, for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Agree, disagree. Hit me up at AB Bozimo on all platforms. Have a great week ahead.
All right. Thank you, AB, and thank you, Mr. C. That is it for Freshly Pressed, but do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye, AB.
Bye now.